Welcome back to another video on Gearsaw Studios, and today I'm going to be showing you how to build yourself a secret base, complete with a chicken coop so that way you can egg everything. So before we begin, just make sure you're doing this in a developed area. It's no fun if your secret base has zero risk of ever being found. So I decided to put mine in a very risky spot, right in the bushes. Of course, you can hide yours under a tree or another funny area, but regardless, if you're doing it under a house, make sure it's at least 18 blocks deep. I recommend a little bit more though, because the chickens will be slightly higher. From my perspective, on the surface, my chickens were able to be heard. Additionally, light up nearby caves and disable/destroy nearby spawners, just to make sure there's no noises coming from here. So now, we dig out a small area, 3x3, decently long, but we have a problem. What about our pallet? And this can really be a big deal. So we're going into the building layer. Right here, going right in, we have to choose our pallet, and there's way too many options this time. So here's a few I came up with. Maybe we want to do something a little bit futuristic like this, or perhaps more Minecraft traditional. Then we have maybe some wool, or you can do something more biome specific. Regardless, I'm doing the Minecraft traditional in this case. So let's just do a little bit of crossfading, and you can see how we have a lot of this already in place. The floors, smooth andesite, smooth stone, and the ceilings, we have a bunch of stone bricks and glowstone. Although, you might wanna, just do a bit of spruce, because otherwise it might be a bit too gray. Notice how we also have some glowstone behind some fences. This also provides lighting, but it adds a lot. Additionally, make sure your areas are just a little bit more decorated. Something like this. If you have empty areas in your build, it can really bring it down a lot. So now we have something a bit better. And hooray, we even have some food, but of course, always use shelves, trapdoors, stairs, slabs, everything. And with this general idea, we have our build segmented. We just need to go a little bit further. So that way we can have a bedroom, some storage, whatnot, in order to make sure this place is actually livable. Because the bigger your secret base, the funnier. Now, with basically just an extension to the main room, you can see how it all works a lot better. We're using the same design philosophies with the stone on the ceiling, the glowstone. Notice the carpet here uses some wool built in, and then some chests. A lot of arches are needed for this place, but as long as they're not covering the chests, you can add as many as you want. Then, the back here, stone bricks, we're changing pallets for the last section, and then we have some glowstone, composters in front with leaves on top, and what do you know? You can always add more to your build. The less you have, the less interesting it gets. Just make sure things aren't constantly overlapping. This is decent, but I could definitely add more. But anyways, we have something else to divert our attention to, the bedroom. It's pretty much just a bigger version of the main room. So let's go in here and excavate something like this. You can see even numbers of blocks for the walls. You can pause to take a look at exact numbers. They're not important though. So you can just make any amount and it should work no matter what. Anyways, add some arches, the same stuff we had everywhere else, and you can see how it's all coming together. Make sure that you experiment a little, but still, we do this, and now we add in the walls, the ceilings, and just some more spruce. The spruce itself, I recommend just playing around and seeing what works, because eventually you'll find something that looks really nice. And of course, if you change any measurements, your build will look different. I recommend experimenting. But anyways, some cyan wool for the ground, we have that. And additionally, let's build a bed real quick. And there's a bunch of bed designs. You could look up yours online, or you could pause to take a look at this one. Notice how I use 3 beds with carpets on top to make sure the whole thing's bouncy. Then, let's add in some decorations. And this one's pretty easy. We add an ender chest, some leaves around, paintings, a pile of gold, armor stand, whatnot. You can incorporate some copper torches as well if you really want. But really has that old 2010 Stampy Cat vibe. And we even hid a lodestone, so that way we don't forget anything. So now we go into here, and this is the funny part of the video. So originally I wanted to build myself a chicken coop. By the way, notice the floor, gray concrete, but we're building a brewing station here. But the problem I had was it turns out my design was completely wrong, so I'm going to have to skip a bit of the video later on. But for now, we're building a chicken coop. So right here, I recommend copper torches, not normal torches, and we're just going to have hoppers with some chickens. I'm going to have all three variants, and make sure you can't hear them from the surface. So right here, we have hot, temperate, and cold, and we're just going to build chicken coops from here. To add the chickens from above, we're going to go right above here, and we're going to excavate a little bit of an area, and now we can add more chickens to increase productivity. That way, even if your place is busted, it's still useful, provides eggs. Now, let's add some tuff all around to the build to make sure that it looks professional. The upstairs area, we don't have to decorate. Then, 3 chests, and we add some hoppers to them. And you have to be a bit careful with the hoppers because chickens can get stuck in them or on top of them. So let's add ourselves some stairs right there, and we're going to add some carpet to the hoppers, like this. Surround everything else in tuff. And then, here's where it gets dicey. Right here, I added glass panes. This is a mistake. Do not replicate that. Use full blocks. But anyways, with that out of the way, we add some tuff, and then we can add the chickens. But of course, make sure there's some lighting up here. The last thing you want is weirdly dark parts of the build. So we have a chicken coop ready to be prepared. So let's just add ourselves some chickens in here. And in the meantime, let's actually add a proper ceiling to the room. We're going to have some beams of tuff running across. Don't worry about all the measurements. And then we're going to have a little area right there. It's completely optional. Just fill up your stuff. And now, with all of our chickens fully done, and some tough slabs on the ceiling, we are now ready to build the launcher. Now, here's where my recording actually diverges from the video. Originally, I was trying to build a chicken volcano with all these cool little features built in, but it turns out my redstone was bedrock incompatible, but also couldn't even launch chickens. So just copy the part shown for a moment there. That's the decorative part. And now we can see my contraption completely fail. I launched up some chickens using wind charges, but then they fell right back down. So you can't use it for chickens for the most part, but fortunately, you can use it for players. So here's the idea. So I brought everything back, and we have a hole in the ground. You don't have to add dispensers to it. So pretty much, we have a bunch of chickens, and what we do, this is why we had brewing stands, we throw down a thing of wind bursting, and then we use a sweeping attack or a potion of instant damage, and we fly away. This is a very good way to escape your thing, and it's also just a good elytra launcher, so that way, even when your thing is found, it remains useful. So anyways, we go back here, and you can see a bunch of redstone that's just not useful, except this part. We want to make sure that we have a lever that activates a piston up here. So we use some glass going back and forth, and a redstone repeater. You can pause or slow down the video to take a closer look. And pretty much, we use a redstone torch as an inverter, and we have a hole in the ground there. Pretty much, it's kind of obvious here, but we go down, and we can flip a lever in order to open the hole so we can actually launch ourselves out of it. This is really more of an escape thing. It doesn't close automatically, so if you leave and never shut it again, your base is going to be found. Anyways, now for a demonstration on how this can work. So we flip the lever to open the hatch at the top, making sure you have an elytra on. And of course, we're assuming we're on Java. Throw down a potion of wind bursting, open the hatch, and do a sweeping attack. Then you can see we are launched well over 600 blocks in the air. You can see here on the right side of my screen, and we can use this to get to different places fast. Even if you don't plan on building a secret base, this might be a useful contraption anyways. So we can look all across my world and see how I've been a much worse builder in the past. But yep, we can see a snowy mansion I built recently. We can see all the terrain, and we're going really fast and really far. And we didn't even have to use any fireworks. So make sure that even if you don't need this, still, this video can actually be quite useful. So now, a little bit of a disaster there. We have this build, and it's just generally quite nice. You can use it as a starter base. You can build it pretty quickly. Should only take maybe an hour or so as long as you have all the resources ready. No enchantments needed, and it even comes with a food supply in the form of the chickens. So now, let's take a quick look at vibrant visuals, and you can see, hooray, it's just, well, brighter. There's nothing terribly interesting to see besides the fact that the gold will now reflect lighting, which is a cool little change. But this should work on pretty much any version of the game. And you might also notice, this is just more of a meta thing about the video, so I actually applied some color grading to this video. I haven't really done that to past stuff, but still, we can see all across here, it looks more like the actual game. If you're a long-time viewer of the channel, this should look like your actual stuff. And you can see my redstone breaking on Bedrock Edition. But hooray, we have a completed secret base. So it's the end of today's video. If you enjoyed this video, remember, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out. And I'm going to be sure to improve my editing even more in the future, but still, stick around and you'll see some cool stuff. Either way, enjoy the rest of your day. Gearsaw